Thanks for joining us today on the Worth Wiley Show. We got lots of great things coming up for you too. I'm Ferron P. Wiley, and this is my co-host.
Hi, I'm Jayla.
Lots to cover today. The impeachment, the State of the Union address.
And then, of course, we're going to talk a little bit about the coronavirus, which has so many people scared, and also racially oppressive history in Texas.
Also today, our views on Billy Porter, Lil Nas X, Tyra Perry's Fall from Grace, and I just saw the movie Just Mercy with Jamie Foxx and Michael B. Jordan.
Also, we're going to take a look at the reasons that there's so much vitriol toward unconventional expressions of gender identity. Hey! And how individuals who are connected to religion and church are often highly sensitive to criticism.
Stick around. It's all coming up next here on the Worth Wiley Show.
Oh my God, what's been going on with me? It's been amazing since our last time meeting with each other through the internet. So that's been amazing. I've had a wonderful life.
I'm all up in the camera today because I'm trying to see if I look skinnier on TV. I've been doing my weight loss thing and I am 23.6 pounds lighter than last episode.
That's amazing because I don't have the willpower to do that.
Hasn't been that bad. It really hasn't. This is kind of my second endeavor since the last about 2 years, and I picked an exercise that was pretty non-arduous. I love to swim. I love the water. So just the other day was funny that I was coming out of the gym and this lady asked me. She says, "Do you have back problems?" And I was like, no, not really. She goes, well, I always see you swimming on your back. And I just wondered if you had back problems. I said, well, no, ma'am, I swim on my back because it's the exercise that most resembles laying in bed. So I really despise exercise. But between that, I do like 90 minutes a day, at least 90 minutes a day. Sometimes I do 2 sessions and then cut my calories back to 1,500. And I've been trying to stay on track, and it's been having some good results.
Yeah, you look amazing.
And you do too today. Jokingly as well, I have been saying to myself, I am trying to lose this weight so I can be a less desirable snack to the zombies when the zombie apocalypse hit. But on a more serious note, in a lot of those movies, that zombie apocalypse started with some kind of a virus and transformed people into something. Not saying that that's what's going on now, but this coronavirus has really kind of got me a little spooked because, I am a bit of a conspiracy theorist, and I'm always of the mind that our governments are not really being forthcoming about what's going on. And, to learn that there are so many in China that are affected or infected right now, we all thought that, Ebola wasn't going to, make it to the United States. And then I was living in Dallas at the time when, boom, it was right there. And so I put a video on Facebook, and, that was kind of highlighting some of the traumas that people were facing, and it was, again, I posted it, but I wasn't, giving any credence as to whether it was an authentic video or not. But it was pretty frightening, and I also attached to it a video of a doctor's perception of how we could, protect ourselves and our families should this virus begin to spread worldwide. And I think the potential is there. my concern right now is that, are we getting the information from our own government about the actual statistics of what's happening with this virus? Have you had any thing? I know you work with the Montrose Center, and so there, I imagine there's a pretty significant disease-conscious environment there. Have they been talking about it at work? Or?
We've talked about it loosely at work. Definitely at work, we're concerned about all types of things, especially in my department because we work with the public. So we're definitely always getting tested for TB. We're always on top of flu shots. All of those kind of things. We want to protect ourselves and protect our clients. But as far as coronavirus, the little bit that I do know about it is that it is a respiratory infection. So it affects, the lungs and all of that information, all of that. And so the best way to protect yourself is constantly washing. The same way we would protect ourselves from the flu or any type of sickness or illness is washing your hands, not touching your face, staying away from your eyes, your nose, your mouth. The common areas that we're always doing unconsciously throughout the day, rubbing our eyes and things like that.
Mucous membranes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So keeping the hand sanitizer with us. And then if we find ourselves with a cough or something like that, making sure that we wear a mask, that we are, taking that time and using that PTO to stay away from work until we recuperate and get well. It's basically universal precautions.
Yeah. And I think that's probably important. I would say if you're not familiar with what universal precautions are, I would Google that. Just Google universal precautions, and you can see how to protect yourself and keep infection rates down. Something that the doctor said in the video was that this particular strain of the coronavirus comes in an envelope, and that it has a protection, so it can live on surfaces for up to 5 days.
Wow.
And so the idea that somebody can touch a doorknob or can sneeze or whatever, and that you can pick that up and you can unwittingly carry that into your home and infect your family, and then signs and symptoms don't show up for almost 2 weeks. So it is something to be concerned about, not to send anyone into panic mode, because in any kind of crisis situation, panic is never the reasonable way to walk through those kinds of things. So educate yourself, do what you need to do to protect yourself. If by chance that we start to see an outbreak in the United States, then you need to be informed. They say stay home, avoid public spaces, all those kinds of things. So be mindful, take care of yourself, and be well. So any last comments on that before we go into our next?
I would say one last comment is I did get a chance to speak with. I forget her name, but she's a woman who worked in Africa with the Ebola virus. Mm-hmm. And she kind of gave some of her thoughts and opinions about the coronavirus in the U.S., mainly being that because of the way that it spreads and how long it takes to basically show symptoms and things like that. And that was around when we had 1 or 2 cases in the U.S. Mm-hmm. She definitely was concerned that there was probably already many more in the U.S. That just wasn't symptomatic yet.
Right.
So definitely utilizing those universal precautions, washing our hands, especially when we're in public spaces, including work. So constantly just taking care of yourself and protecting yourself and others.
F. Wiley Media presents What Would You Do If You Found Out the pastor was abusing your child?
So, have you heard this story that was going on in Texas about this high school student who was not able to graduate because the school was requiring him to cut his dreadlocks, and they went back and they found some old rule, and in my opinion, instead of they had an opportunity to do something good as opposed to we can do away with this rule, but instead they choose to uphold the rule and not even take a look at the racial implications of how that rule came into place. Uh, uh, to me, it's just evident again of how the prevalence of systematic racism continues to show its ugly head, and their unwillingness to move beyond it, and all of this having to do with natural hair. And I mean, what is the deal with black people wearing their hair the way it grows?
It's the ideal of it causing the question about what is professional and what is not professional. And to me, at the end of the day, as long as it's neat and you have the ability to do your job and it doesn't impair you doing your job, then there should be no issues. Like, for instance, if you're a food sanitation worker, then of course you're going to wear hair nets and things like that to kind of keep your hair out of your face and out of the way because you're working with people's food and things like that. But there shouldn't be a case where, oh, your hair is too long, or you can't wear locks, or your hair is too big, things of that nature. Like, who makes these rules?
Well,
and we know who makes these rules. And they make these rules without us, people who are black and brown at the table, the minorities. They make these rules without us at the table and being able to speak up and create space for us to speak up for ourselves.
well, my hair doesn't grow that long no more, but I was really considering that one day I was gonna give me some Velcro braids. What you think of? You think that was Sam? I don't. You brought up something earlier that the U.S. court had ruled to uphold bans on dreadlocks
In the hiring process.
In the hiring process.
Yes, I'm rarely shocked by things that happen in politics and with the United States, especially in relation to minorities and people who are disenfranchised or marginalized. And so it really didn't surprise me that they upheld that decision. Basically, what happened was a judge decided that it was legal to discriminate against somebody because of their hair in the hiring process, because of, I guess, of the image you want to present for your company. I think it's ridiculous. It makes no sense. I have plenty of friends who rock natural hair, who have locks and things of that nature. And I remember one of them going into hospital administration, strongly considered, like, it was really stressful for a while about cutting their hair. Great hair, amazing, always neat, looks really good. But because of how they would be perceived in the professional world because of their hair. I've worked at jobs, for me personally, where they told me that because at the time I was a man and things of that nature, my nails were too long and they was unprofessional to have long nails. Even though it's okay for the women to wear a certain length of nails, but the men couldn't wear it because there was this separation between the two different sexes. I've worked at jobs where they told me I had to cut my hair I was a cashier. Like, how does my hair have anything to do with me punching buttons and ringing people up? But it was, what he said was, it's unbecoming of a man in the workforce. And so it's things like that makes no sense. It does not impact the company. And if anything, when I rocked my long nails and when I had my hair, clients always, customers always supported me and always talked, oh, your hair looks amazing. Oh my God, your nails, who does your nails? Things like that. So it was not based on them. It was their own personal preference.
So does a company, in your assessment, have the right to assess what their image is and whether and whether a person is reflecting that image. I don't know if I'm forming the question right.
I get what you're saying.
I mean, do you feel that companies have the right to do that, or should companies become more open-minded about the changing dynamics of the world that we live in?
Definitely. I definitely think that culture is changing, and we, especially the younger generation, we're pushing the envelope of what the workforce looks like. And so I think companies need to evolve and basically get with the times. Now, for instance, like, I knew that here in Houston, we had a police officer who was Shake, and they had an issue in the beginning with their head covering. I believe it's called Shake. I could be wrong.
Oh, Seek.
Sorry, Seek. And so with them, there was an issue in the beginning around their hair covering being a part of the uniform as a police officer. And they had to basically move forward with that. It was like, this is the person's beliefs, is their religion, and we need to honor that. So I believe differences should be honored and should not be a sense of contention around somebody getting a job.
So, naggers.
Oh, goodness.
Did she say it or not?
I listened to it so many times.
I couldn't even find it.
It was one of those things that was up in the air.
What's up with these naggers?
I don't know if she said it or she didn't, but do I think she should have lost her job over it? Well, I don't even know if she lost her job over it.
I did see something where she was fired.
Yeah.
From MSNBC.
I think they probably did it just to be safe. Go ahead and just get rid of this, and she can go find. She'll land on her feet somewhere else. I think in that situation where it was so contentious about what is that exactly what she said, yeah or nay? Because I personally don't think anybody in their right mind would say that on national television in the middle of an article.
It's hard to tell these days, though.
But it's hard to tell. You never know what people are going to do.
It's hard to tell what people will say and what they'll do now because, I mean, this president has emboldened a lot of people. Now, MSNBC being the liberal-leaning news outlet, it was difficult for me to think that, they would hire her in the first place with any particular sideways views. But I've seen some people work for Fox News that I was surprised that they worked there. And so I can't say yay or nay. I didn't hear the comment. I didn't even see the segment. I just saw all of the aftermath and backlash. Now the explanation that she gave seemed plausible.
Yeah, I mean, it happens.
It seemed plausible. At the same time, I have been in situations where I have not been given the benefit of the doubt. And I think that happens a lot more often with people of color.
Yeah.
That we do not get the benefit of the doubt. And so I was really not, crying about the fact that she lost her job. But I think it's really unfortunate the culture that we live in that we have to be so hypersensitive about what people say. And it seems like people are emboldened to say whatever the fuck they want to say because they feel that there won't be any consequences for that. And so then you have all these videos of people getting popped in their face and getting their eyes dotted. And then, that was just horrible. You shouldn't, they shouldn't have. Well, people need to also realize that when you talk out of the side of your face, that the potential of violence is a possible outcome of what's going to occur. So hopefully you will think about that before you just let whatever come out of your mouth and call it freedom of speech.
There are consequences to the things that you say and the things that you do. And sometimes that consequence is getting beat up. And so it's one of those things be careful what you say and what you do and who you do that around, because you don't know who's going to be offended and how they're going to take that and how they're going to react.
Right. So I went to recently. So speaking of, getting pissed off, and people are always saying that, oh, we need to do away with these kinds of movies. So I recently just went to go see Just Mercy. With Jamie Foxx and what's his name? With Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan, yeah. I keep wanting to call him the villain in Black Panther.
Yeah.
But
he's so cute.
That is. I used to be into Jamie Foxx too, but I'm gonna leave that alone. But anyway, the film was very good. It was well written. It was well acted. I like the fact that it was pretty current because the characters that were depicted are still alive, and their work is still being done in terms of the reversing these cases on individuals who are on death row, who either DNA or some other evidence was suppressed, and they were convicted of a crime that they did not commit. And so I'll tell you what, I ain't gonna give it away if you ain't seen the movie. It was very good, and it was honestly, it was another one of those movies that I left out there and said, "Oh, I want to fight white people." And yes, those movies do stir up those emotions. That one, years ago I saw Rosewood, and that had me in that.
Based on a true story.
Had me coming out of the theater like, don't say nothing to me. And then not only coming into that with my own experiences. I mean, I grew up during Rodney King, which was really the crowning piece, or the initial piece of video that came out that exposed what we knew was happening all along.
Definitely.
And when they announced those verdicts, which, by the way, I talk about in my book Californication, y'all can pick that up on Amazon. But when they announced those verdicts, I was at work, and I was walking through the halls at Suncrest Hospital. I was working in a mental health facility, and when they announced those verdicts, white people would not, that I worked with every day, would not look me in my face, and they would be bunched up having conversations. And when I walked by, everybody go shh, and then everybody was like plotting which way they were going to go home to avoid the riots and all sorts of stuff. So those were my experiences that I carry into these films. And so what was interesting to me is that there were quite a few white people in the audience. And I've often wondered, and if you're a white person watching this show, please comment and let me know, when you all see films about the history of black people in this country, I'm often curious about what you all take away from that. Is it, oh, that was a great movie, or that was back then, or I'm often wondering, how white people react. Do they come away with a sense of, how do we do better, or let me go get some more popcorn, or I'm interested to know that. So if you're a white person watching this show, please comment and let me know what is your takeaway from what happens in these films that depict the mistreatment of blacks in America. So I said I wasn't gonna do it.
Oh goodness.
Because I can't really comment on this because I did not watch the movie. So Tyler Perry's Fall from Grace. My friend he even sent me his Netflix password. He said, watch the movie. It's just a comedy of errors. And I said, that was really the whole reason I decided not to watch it. because that was enough for me. You know, I saw all the little clips of people saying on Facebook. I don't even know what the movie's about. What's the movie about?
So basically, Fall from Grace was about a woman who basically had been divorced and basically was unlucky in love. And at the behest of her best friend, she decided to go out and give love a second chance. And I'm not going to give it away, but she finds love, and basically it talks about the trials and tribulations that she experienced with that love that she found, and the betrayal that comes into her life towards the end. And so yeah.
Black woman finds a black man.
Yeah.
He does her wrong, and she mad.
She's mad. She's upset. But he really did dog out in this movie.
Well, that's what all Tyler's characters do.
Yeah. And then there was a twist in it that was a little bit different for Tyler Perry that made it really good. So for me, the storyline was I thought there was a lot of potential there. It was something I would have watched. But at the same time, I thought it was not up to the caliber for Netflix. Mainly because of all of those errors that were in the movie. Tyler Perry opened up and said that he made the movie in 5 days. He shot the entire movie in 5 days. Most people was like, "Oh, that's amazing!"
For that.
They was like, "That's amazing. That's a great job." That is not a good job. Shooting the entire movie in 5 days. Yeah, that's a lot of work, but you miss so many of those little things that finesse and perfect the film.
And they I thought I heard something similar to that they recorded or they filmed what's that other movie with Taraji?
Oh, I know you're talking about with Taraji. But yes.
I heard that they filmed that in a short period of time too, but I can't be sure.
But it was really good, though.
Don't quote me.
But I definitely knew that I wanted to see it only because of Felicia Rashad, because she was in it, as well as Cicely Tyson.
I said if you had Cicely Tyson and Felicia Rashad, you only had.
It's going to be a good movie.
Well, no, but you ain't going to be able to afford them for more than 5 days. So you better go on and get this shit done. So
that could have been a part of the reason why it was 5 days. But definitely, it was those inconsistencies in the movie that made it a comedy versus something that was serious and supposed to be suspenseful and a thriller and all these kind of things. And so I feel like somebody of your caliber that's presenting these projects to the world, you want to put your best foot forward, and that was definitely not his best foot.
And that's another thing too, is Tyler Perry, props for all of that. I mean, the whole building the studio and everything, that is just incredible to me. It does not, however, exclude you from criticism. And secondly, that you really should pay attention to what people are saying, because the thing about it is, if you're putting out shoddy work and the audience is noticing it, then I would imagine that Netflix is not going to be too inclined to keep accepting product from you.
I think he gets away with the fact that even with the shoddy workmanship in the movie, it still got millions of viewers on Netflix, and so that's good for Netflix's business.
Right.
But at the same time, just because you know that you have the power of bringing people to the platform, you still should present your best work. There was a lot of talk I saw in my circles around the movie around basically calling into question, how can you be black and criticize black work? And I'm like, me criticizing other black people that are in various businesses does not take away from who I am as a person. I want to see all of us present our best foot forward and to be better and to do better. And so we can't do that if we are constantly saying, "Oh, no, that's really good. That was really great," and coddling people. Like, it just doesn't work that way.
It's like that, like when that person sing in church. And then everybody said, "Oh, baby, you sang that song. She sound like an old moose." I don't do it. But somebody said, well, maybe you should send your books to Tyler Perry, man. He'll make a movie. I'm like, ooh, baby, I don't know.
I think I'll take a chance and do it myself. You probably can do just as good of a job.
And that brings me to a side point because, I really appreciate the fact that we have been able to connect and do this show because it has been really difficult for me trying to find people to network with. And when I try to do different projects and things like that, like, I would love to, try to see, my work be made into just starting off and just making an audio book. Mm-hmm. And people don't seem to want to, work together to get to the prize. We all chasing the bag. I understand that. We all, want to get paid. We all want to do that, and so do I. But at some point, we have to decide to work together. And I don't know if it's counterproductive when we, on one hand, we criticize each other to help us move, to do better. But then I get the feeling that most of the time people are not criticizing so you can do better. They criticizing because they feel like shit about themselves.
Yeah.
And they trying to, for whatever reason, can't seem to establish any self-worth without putting someone else down. And that's what I feel like happens online a lot. Because people who have, if you got a problem with Tyler Perry's work, you ain't got to watch it.
Right.
But you still going to watch it just so you can talk shit about it. So, so that's why I think Tyler Perry ain't sweating none of y'all. Because the next movie he put out, y'all going to be watching just so you can talk about it. So that's all I got to say about that. But I tell you what, folks are very, I don't know, just we're in a culture right now which is everybody's so sensitive about everything. And I had somebody on my Facebook page. I made a post that said I was actually in church, and the post said churches, we're here to meet the needs of a sick and dying world. And then I said, the response from the sick and dying world, we're good. We see how you treat each other. So, and when I went back to look, I had lost some Facebook friends, and somebody had commented and goes, we'll catch you later. Have a good life. And I was like, well, was it really that serious? I don't know. I have a background with church folk, but I hear church people saying that in the church and saying, we don't treat each other right. That's why people don't come to church. And so I'm only reiterating the stuff that y'all say, and then but when I say it, y'all get mad. So I don't know. Folks just seem to be sensitive around the idea that unless they feel like you are a part of their culture, then you don't get to speak out against it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. That may be true in other arenas, but I just thought that was something I wanted to bring up. But so this whole thing with Billy Porter, the dresses, Lil Nas X, their fashion choices, and recently Billy Porter was on Sesame Street, and all of the Republicans and evangelicals were just up in arms about somebody gay influencing the children, But, my response to it was Bert and Ernie been gay since day one. I don't understand what we crying about Billy Porter for.
Bert and Ernie has been gay for forever. You look at their living arrangement, and it totally mirrored Lucy and Ricky. If you watched, if some of y'all are older and y'all watched those episodes, the two beds in the room, and they shared a room and all those kind of things. Bert in the tub with his little ducky. I mean Ernie, and Bert popping up every now and again. As someone who grew up and was definitely identifying as gay, I could look at that and I'm like, that's a gay couple. So definitely. But when it comes into terms about Billy Porter and Lil Nas X, I'm totally here for it. I support it. I love it. I think it's long overdue. We need that representation. There's such a power in. I love the sense that they're both they both are dark skinned and pushing this envelope of it's okay to be feminine. Because I think a lot of times in Black culture we associate the darkness of someone's skin with their masculinity, and so that's something we do not talk about. But it's the sense. I think it relates farther back to slavery. This ideal of this wild bushman and who can't even control his sexual urges and who might be someone who might be a rapist and has all of these type of stigmas and stereotypes around the darkness of your skin and associating darkness with evil. And so these are people who are like love and light and are stepping out and saying it's okay to be who you are and to be feminine and to express yourself. And people are so up in arms; they are hating it. It's a mixed bag. Some people are loving it.
When I look at Lil Nas, I don't see femininity really. I mean, I see him as an entertainer. Well, I had an interesting experience. I drive Uber sometimes too, and this a young lady I picked up, and she had about 4 kids. It was like 3 girls and a little boy. And they were all under between the ages of 5, but between 3 to 5, 3 maybe 7. However, Lil Nas song came on, and all of them was just had all the words. I don't even know all the words to that song. And so
the first song with the horses in the back.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, ride and my pony, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road, whatever. And they were just into it. Now that was, I'll have to be honest, that was the first time I actually started listening to the words. And now I'm judging this mother.
Yeah.
I'm like, you let your kids. And so I thought that was funny, but she, you know, then there was another song that came on, and on the way back to the house, and it was talking about, you know, freaking or whatever, and the little girl was singing, and she leaned over to look. Don't be singing that.
She only said it because you was in the car. Like at home, I'm sure it's quite all right.
I promise you, I was trying not to eye her through the rearview mirror. I really was. But that's the thing. They think none of us have morals about nothing. But when it comes to Billy Porter, yeah, I think that he is, you know, incredibly talented.
Definitely.
He is, you know, a singer, a songwriter, an actor. He's probably a writer in his own right. I did like what he said. He put out a video, you know, talking about, you know, how he was taken back, how the Black community had seemed to be laying the responsibility on him for the emasculation of the Black man. And so he just says, you know, I didn't realize, first of all, that I had that much power, but now that I do, I'm going to be wielding it as often as I can. I had this conversation with a friend of mine who, you know, who is gay, but we differ on a lot of things. And he questions whether, you know, people who, you know, dress a certain way, or even people who are trans-identified, you know, have to understand who they are or ask the question, why am I doing what I'm doing? Am I doing this because this is really who I am, or am I doing this to make some kind of a statement? Personally, I don't care either way. I think there needs to be enough space, for people to figure out who they are, and if a statement needs to be made, then it needs to be made. I don't really, trip off of that. My challenge, even for myself, in evolving in that understanding, is that, growing up gay, there were people who didn't understand who I was. And at the moment, I may not have understood who I was either. But whatever I was doing was a process of me figuring that out. Mm-hmm. And your opposition to my expression in the world isn't helping. And in some ways, maybe it does, because it forces me to continue that journey. It made me want to press in and figure out and be okay and do me in spite of you. So I don't have an issue with people who are perhaps endeavoring to be over the top or flamboyant or whatever, to make a point, to push the envelope, to help people understand that, tomorrow, even though Billy Porter, I came down the red carpet in this dress, and now tomorrow you still okay.
No.
You didn't die. Your children didn't go to jail, or you all right. So I don't see what the big deal is.
I definitely have seen a lot of in post the award show. I saw a lot of more masculine identified black gay men who had an issue with it and was complaining that this is a bad representation for gay people and all of this stuff like that, and basically saying we need more that they should be ashamed of themselves for presenting that to the world, and we need more representation of masculine gay men, especially masculine black gay men, on a national level. And so my thing about that is, and what I always say is that if you find that doesn't exist, then you should be the one to step up and create it.
I agree.
You should be that representation on that level, and don't degrade the people that are being true and authentic to who they are. And so a lot of people don't recognize their own history when it comes to gay rights and things of that nature. It's contentious about who started the gay rights movement, but it's a large pocket of people who believe that it was a black trans woman that threw that first brick at Stonewall. We don't really know. It's lost to history about who it really was. But it definitely was the feminine identified people of that time that started it. We know that for certain. And so if it wasn't for us drag queens, us trans women, that would not have been the beginning of the gay rights movement. And in the gay rights movement, then all of a sudden the narrative changed to being about family oriented and things of that nature, and pushing away those people who are more feminine identified and pushing them to the background. And so
now
they
want to assimilate into
they assimilated. And so now we're in a space where all of a sudden, now that we've gotten past some of those things, now we're finally getting to everybody else that was a part of the fight. And all of a sudden everybody's talking about, oh, well, this is new and we don't know how to deal with this. It's not new. We've been here. We've been here from the very beginning. You just have ignored us.
So yeah, the thing that I have, I tried to emphasize about that subject, and people, guys saying that they, we need more masculine identified representation in gay culture and blah 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 blah. And so, but the issue for me is most of the masculine identified guys or gay men are or who are, I would say, of my age, are comfortable, hiding out in online social groups. They're talking amongst themselves and talking about why they ain't got a man and all this other stuff. But you get mad at the feminine or flamboyant guy who's going to naturally draw attention. Yet, you're still unwilling to be seen. And so if you're unwilling to be seen, you can't be mad at the person who's not afraid to be seen. And if you want to be seen and represented, then you need to show up in your own narrative.
Yeah.
And so, I've tried to practice what I preach. That's why I wrote my books, and that's why I get on here and do talk shows and try to be visible that, I am a masculine identified gay black male, and I'm okay with that in virtually all of my arenas. Once I got to be okay with once I got to be okay with me in the presence of my own family, then the rest of the world can kiss my ass. For real. There is no other part of me that I need to hide, from anybody. So, yes, yes, I operate in arenas today that would not be happy with me doing a show like this. Mm-hmm. If it happens to get in their hands, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But the only reason they don't know is because they haven't asked. And so if they care to ask, we can have that conversation. I got books on the market. You could read all about it. And so, I can't tell anybody else what to do. Even people say, "Oh, yeah, I just like to be private. I'm a private person," but I don't think you can have your cake and eat it too. You want to be a private person, but you also want more masculine representation. Because, in other words, you want somebody else to do it for you. And I'm just not cool with that.
Yeah. And, for those of us that are more on the feminine side of the spectrum, it's a privilege to have the ability to assimilate into society and not be bothered, to be able to walk down the street and not be gawked and looked at. Mm-hmm. For me personally, and this is on the real, I have to question when I get ready to stop for gas late at night, where I'm going to stop.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I know this gas station, but there's a lot of people outside. And if I get out in my total presentation of who I am, I might have a problem. Mm-hmm. And so my safety and my physical person could be in danger just for being who I am and getting out at this particular gas station at this time of night.
And there are those who will say that you have a choice about that.
Right. So it's so the choice would be, okay, so I would remove my wig, pull my hair back in a ponytail, put on a baggy shirt, some baggy jeans, and have to walk out in front of these people it's about this performance art of pretending to be masculine in order to be safe. Mm-hmm. There are people out there in the world that do that. Mm-hmm. But I believe everybody is born with a compass toward their truth and what's authentic and real for them. And so I cannot, in who I am as a person, trade who I am just for safety. If I die for being who I am perfectly comfortable with that. But at the same time, I have to be very conscious and I have to think about certain things that most people don't even think about. Yeah. So even for tomorrow night, I have an event that I have to go to that's later at night. It's downtown. It's going to be dark out by the time I get there, and I have to get there a little later because of work. That means that when I get ready to walk to the event, I have to park farther away because everybody's going to already be there. And then I have to walk in the dark from wherever I park to the space. And navigating from my car to the space, how safe am I going to be? And so situations like that, I have to call my friends and be like, hey girl, be on the phone with me until I get to where I'm going. Just in case something happened, somebody knows what's going on with me. Things like that. People don't even think about that. About just getting out of my car and walking to a space.
And most people don't think outside of their own experience. They don't. And but if you need a ride, girl, you call me. All right? So, Mr. Donald, our other friend,
Ain't my friend.
Ain't my friend.
Ain't my friend. Ain't my friend. Ain't my president.
The impeachment went as we expected it would go.
Definitely as I expected.
But that doesn't change the what that says about where our democracy is.
Mm-hmm.
And he presented himself as a law and order president, and with all of the racial ramifications that are tied to that language, which is the same thing that Nixon said. Evidently, law and order does not apply to our Congress, because they didn't even want to hear all the facts in the case.
Right. No witnesses, tons of evidence the White House withheld, things of that nature. It went totally the way I thought it would go. Seeing that it was in the Senate and it's largely ran by Republicans, they have the majority. So I already knew how it was going to go. That was no surprise to anybody. I think for the Democrats in power, they wanted it to go down in the books that they stood up for where they were, that the impeachment did happen. So he was impeached. He was not successfully impeached. He wasn't kicked
removed.
out. He wasn't removed.
Impeached, not removed.
Impeached and not removed. So he'll go down in history for that. I think the thing that scares me the most is that seeing that this is an election year, he's the nominee because he's the president of the Republican Party. And so seeing who are we going to have to represent the Democrats against him when it gets time to vote, and will they have enough power to combat him as president? He's kind of basically declared himself as a king and a dictator and can get away with anything. And so we don't know the depths that he will go to be reelected.
Well, so I've heard individuals say that, it needs to be a landslide. And I agree and I disagree. I agree in the context that, yes, the election would have to be a landslide so that there would be no room for...
No doubt.
No, there would be no room for foul play in terms of the election count. Now, because if it's close, then he's going to be up there saying, oh, it was...
similar to what happened with Hillary. The Electoral College picked him, but the popular vote picked Hillary.
Or Bush Gore, when they had that fiasco in Florida. They did that recount.
They did a recount.
And so, the other part, and now, I don't care whether it's a landslide or not. We need to vote him out. Whether it's by a margin or a gap or a gorge or whatever, we need to vote him out. And so, this is my plea to black people. If we vote in the ways that we voted for Obama, Trump won't win.
Mm-hmm.
If we come out and vote the way that, and at this point, there aren't Democratic candidates that are energizing me either. But at this point, I am going to support whoever gets the nomination. Now, Buttigieg impressed me recently on an interview with Bill Maher on Real Time with Bill Maher on HBO, and the reason that he impressed me is that it was a satellite interview. It was not face to face, and there is the time delay. Mm-hmm. And Buttigieg was on it. He was answering the questions. He was getting the humor. He was being humorous himself. He was connecting, and it would do me some good just to be able to see a debate between Buttigieg and Trump, because I just feel like Buttigieg, being a gay man, would have the innate ability to read for filth, and that would just be fun to watch. So, but whoever gets the nomination, I plan to support, and I hope that more of you will. If you have not registered to vote, please do so, and don't just register. Go vote. I think one of the things I may be doing on election day or early voting, whatever, however it works out, I might just gas up my little car, and anybody who need a ride to the polls, I'm gonna take you, because this is just there is just too much at stake, and I don't know if you are aware that. This particular juncture that we're at, we are going to see a whole lot more madness between now and November, and it's going to be a dog eat cat, dog cat rat fight.
Definitely.
If you thought 2016 was nasty, this is going to be really nasty. The nation is divided. We are not the United States.
There's no unity in the United States right now.
We are not the United States. We are divided. And we need to be able to come to terms with that reality. And sitting home, watching the election unfold is not an option. I get it. I get how some people feel that all the government is corrupt and it ain't never gonna be right for black people or whatever. Mm-hmm. I might as well get on this boat. But that boat gonna have you back picking cotton. You keep playing. So take it seriously. I'm already hearing the murmurings that if, people are saying that if Bernie Sanders doesn't get the nomination, they're going to vote. Please do not make that same mistake.
We had that problem in 2016 with Hillary, where they stayed home and did all of that. I think we have to talk about what's at stake. A lot of people, they think, oh, well, it's just around the president and we don't want another Republican president and things of that nature. Or we just don't want Trump. But let's talk about what happens I'm not going to say when, but if he gets reelected. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who sits on the Supreme Court, has already made it clear that this is her last time. She's well up in age. She's had a lot of health problems. She's holding out until after the election before she decides to step down. She wants to give it a chance to see if a Democrat is going to win, and if they do, she can step down and know that they're going to replace her with another. They're going to appoint somebody that's going to keep some balance on there. Right now, the balance is kind of upset with the last guy who just got voted in as a Supreme Court justice,
Mr. Beer can rapist.
Right, him. And so, if we get another justice who is Republican and not just Republican, I don't want to make it sound like I just don't like Republicans. That's not what it's about. But somebody who is extremely conservative to the point that they're trying to impose their beliefs on an entire country of people. If we get somebody else on the Supreme Court that is like that, that will set us back as far as laws and real change for at minimum the next 50 years. Because these people are going to be on the Supreme Court for a very long time, shaping what America culture looks like. And so that's something that really terrifies me, that if he gets reelected, that could happen.
Well, yeah, and it's a very real scenario. I feel like the stage is set, and it's unfortunate. Yes, I do have a background in evangelical Christendom, and the sad part about it is, in my experience, I got no indication that evangelical Christians were about freedom of religion for everybody else, and they don't want liberty and justice for all. They want a theocracy, and and to me, that theocracy looks a lot like what they got going on that show, The Handmaid's Tale. When I watched that, I was just like, fuck, we're right there. We're right on the cusp of them enacting Old Testament law that would have people like you and me hanged in the public square. Ultimately, the white Trumpian supportive demographic, they are the only demographic on earth right now, that's my opinion, that is laser focused on obtaining and maintaining their power and presence in the world. I think that if black people were just that focused, we could put a stop to this.
I think that was a very masterful thing that Obama definitely did in when he was running, was being able to come up with a message and that idea of yes, we can. It was so energizing and empowering, and just to be able to say it during that whole point in time of their ability, like, yes, we can do this. We really have power. We can join together and we can make something happen. Even now, like talking about it, like I feel that energy and that presence.
Right.
I don't see that right now with any of the with the candidates.
I would, anytime you turn on the TV, my blood pressure goes up rather than down. Talking about him.
I can't even watch Trump. When I hear his voice and I see anything with him in it, I do not watch it because there's such a negative sense I get from it. So I will read about what he said or something that happens, but I will not
burn some sage around that.
Even on Twitter, I don't follow him on Twitter.
Right.
People will repost and say things that he said, and I'm like, okay.
I do. I think I did follow him on Twitter, just so I could say crazy stuff back. But anyway, in the few moments that we have left, I want to share a quote from Mary McLeod Bethune, which I think is relevant for what we are talking about. This is, if we accept and acquiesce in the face of discrimination, we accept the responsibility ourselves and allow those responsible to soothe their conscience by believing that they have our acceptance and concurrence. We should therefore protest openly everything that smacks of discrimination or slander. And so, in the words of Mary McLeod Bethune, stand up, use your power, vote. We're glad you joined us today on the Worth Wiley Show. We hope it was worth your while, and we hope to see you next time on the Worth Wiley